What's going on, people? How's everyone doing? Ryan Got the Bread podcast. I hate the name. I didn't come up with it. I was going to use the acronym for it, but I don't want to change the name, and I'm just going to have to live with it. This is episode 20, and we're going to talk about all kinds of fun things. Go ahead, Kiana, hit the intro. I'm just going to freestyle it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ryan Got the Bread podcast, a real estate and business podcast where we talk about all kinds of different business things. I'm Ryan.Fagan. I'm a real estate broker, sort of, kind of retired, and property manager, house flipper, do rental properties, all that kind of stuff. Today we're going to be talking about second liens, mortgages, and we're going to also be talking about home improvement projects because we're tapping into our equity to basically improve our financial well-being. I have a great panel of experts here. I have Talia here, who is an expert at second liens, which we'll talk about what the second lien position is. And then, of course, we have Candace, who was on episode 19, all-star real estate agent in South Jersey. Pew, pew, pew. I don't have my soundboard set up, but we're going to get there. And welcome to the Ryan Got the Bread podcast. I want you guys to introduce yourselves, your name, if you want to say where you work, your position, your experience, all that stuff so everybody knows, but I'll start with me. My name is Ryan.Fagan, and this is the Ryan Got the Bread podcast. And I've been licensed as an agent for 10 years. I've had rental properties for 11 years. I bought my first property in 2010. I'm old. Oh my God. I was in the military, and that's when I first got involved in real estate investing. I flipped some houses. I've done some BRRRR properties, which is when you flip it, but you keep the house and rent it out. And I've worked with a lot of clients, helping them buy and sell homes, and a whole bunch of other stuff, but no one cares about that, okay? So, Talia, welcome.
Welcome, or thank you, rather.
Yes.
All right, so I'm Talia Ray Reed. I've been a mortgage loan originator for probably about 7 years now.
Pew, pew, hey.
Most recently, for the past almost 5 years, I've been offering second lien products to borrowers. So home equity loans, home equity lines of credits.
And people don't think about second liens, including me. That's why I wanted to have this topic, because I've been investigating that. And I'll kind of talk about my thesis why once we get Candace in here. What's up?
Hey, guys. Candace Dennis, New Jersey, real estate agent. I've been selling real estate, just started year 5. Processed mortgages for a couple years before that. And, yeah, that's me.
And so if you want to talk to the people, Candace, this is your camera. You want to address the audience. We have 3 people in here, but one of them is me.
Hey, y'all. And Ryan.
So, guys, this is YouTube Live that we're recording this on, but obviously we're going to put it, it's going to post and all that stuff. But if you guys want to start tuning in Sunday between like 3 and 4:30, we're going to be doing this. So if you have questions, we're going to start opening up to our live viewers to ask questions, or ask your questions in this episode after you're watching it in the post recording, and maybe we'll pick it up in the next episode. We're doing every other Sunday right now, working on the time exactly. We're still working through that stuff, but trying to improve things for everybody. Okay, so so let's talk about some market stuff real quick. I know, like, I bore everybody with the market stuff as far as the real estate market, but I think it's important to stay on top of this stuff. I'm looking at week ending July 2nd, median listing price. It's up 18.3%, which is weird because I think we're going to have a decline, but why is the price going up? I have an idea about that. New listings up 8%. But active listings are up 29%. So I think that's a big red flag, in which I've been pointing to in every episode. I don't want to bore everybody with that. But overall, my thesis is that the market's been so good, and we're running out of steam with rates going up, inflation. It's looking real recession-ish right now. We've had GDP decline for 2 quarters in a row, which used to be how they would say if the economy is in a recession, they're trying to change the definition of that apparently. But whatever. Basically, all I'm trying to say is that the hot market is probably over and or coming to an end, and it's going to switch from a seller's market to a buyer's market. Now, I was sitting around thinking, wow, I own 6 properties and I have a bunch of equity in them because the values have gone up so crazy. And I was like, it's going to suck that I have this equity that just goes away if I don't do anything with it. So I'm like, how can I tap into this and use this for when the market gets worse? That's when you can actually make money. When things get cheaper, then you go buy stuff. Don't buy it at the top. Buy it when it's cheap, when it's on sale. Same thing with real estate and almost every other investment or asset. Real quick, equity is basically the difference between what you owe on something and what it's worth. So if I owe $100,000 and the property could sell for $200,000, I have $100,000 in equity, or 50% loan to value if you're looking, from the lender side. So I came to the realization, because you can do something called a cash out refinance, where you change your loan and take the equity out that way. So in that case, if I owed $100,000 and the house is worth $200,000, I can basically borrow up to 75% of that on a traditional cash out refinance. So I could get, what's my math on that? I can get 75 grand basically. So my loan would be $175,000, but I would keep the $75,000, which I could use to buy other properties. The issue with that going on right now is that the rates are higher. So if you're sitting at 3%, now you'd pay more to borrow that money. So you'd be at like 6% theoretically, or whatever the rate might be. And you have that for 30 years, which you might not want to do. So then I talked to my good friend Talia, who does second liens, and I was looking at home equity line of credit, and it seemed like a better option. So can you give us a definition and a functional outline of what a HELOC or a home equity line of credit is?
Okay, so
Dumb it down though. Don't do the professional speak.
I'm not going to do the professional speak.
Okay.
I don't speak that way to my customers at all.
Yeah, but you're sitting with real estate people, so we tend to
Only when we talk to each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's 2 different options when you're looking to tap into your equity. You have the ability of accessing your equity through a fully amortized home equity loan.
Mm-hmm.
So that particular loan will take second lien position to your existing first mortgage, providing you with various options in terms of the length of time that you carry the term of the loan without disrupting, as you mentioned, your existing first mortgage. So you get to keep your great low rate that everybody wants to hold on to, those 2 and 3% that everyone seemed to have taken advantage of just about, and not be bumped up to about 6% right now.
Right.
So they get to keep those. They get to access more equity than they would with a traditional cash out refinance. Cash out refinances are limited to about 80% on average. Conventional.
Okay, 80.
75 for investment.
Oh, that's why I said 75, because
you
I
have
have
all the
investment
investment
properties.
properties. So it allows them to access a bunch more money without disrupting. A lot of people like to keep that separate. The closing costs are a lot less.
What do the closing costs like? Is there a percentage? Is there a flat amount generally? What could you say that general information? Obviously, guys, general information. Be careful, because it depends on your situation. Blah 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 as a disclaimer, but just as a ballpark, so people have an idea.
So from what I understand, there are lenders that do offer programs with no closing costs.
Really? HELOC, we're talking.
HELOC, okay. Home equity loans, home equity lines of credit. There are some.
Okay.
There are certain, contingencies to it. You have to keep it for a certain amount of time. You have to do X, Y, Z. But they do. Some lenders will advertise no closing costs, but their APRs are extremely high.
Right.
So you have to
There's
keep that in
fees.
mind. Exactly.
So, guys, when you see an APR that's higher than the interest rate, that basically is the fees. The difference is the fees that are on the loan. So if they're offering you a 10% interest rate on a HELOC, but the APR is 15%, there's 5% essentially is the fees that are associated with it. Now, you're not paying the 5% in interest, but however the math
works.
Works out.
They're going to get their money.
You're paying. You're basically paying like it's 15%.
Absolutely.
Right.
But yeah, so a fixed rate home equity loan is an option, and then you have the variable interest rate. Home equity line of credit product.
So walk me through how these things work, because I've never done one, right? So I guess what I want to know is, what do I pay? Because my understanding of the line of credit is a line of credit. So it's like almost like a credit card. So if I get a $50,000 HELOC, I only pay when I use the money.
So when you draw on the account, so some accounts have actual like debit cards associated with them, and some have checkbooks.
Oh.
And some have, actual web capabilities for you to transfer funds from account to account.
Okay.
But essentially, the easiest way to express it to a borrower or someone that's not knowledgeable is to say it's essentially like a credit card.
Right.
So yes, you only pay when you draw on the line. So the home equity lines of credits are structured usually as like 5, 10, and like 30 years on average.
Yeah. So explain the timelines, because I don't.
Okay, so
I have to pay the whole. So if I use all 50,000
Mhm.
in 5 years, I have to pay the whole 50,000 back right then, or
Yeah.
how does it? How does it work?
So say for instance you have a 30-year HELOC, and during that 30-year period of time, there's a 10-year draw period. During that draw period, that essentially means that you're able to access that line.
Oh.
So you can take 50 grand out of the 50 grand fully. You can take 10 grand, pay the 10 grand back, pay the 50 grand back, and you can reuse it. So you can reuse it immediately. You can use it during that 10-year draw period, however you wish.
Okay.
But during that draw period, a lot of people may not fully understand that it is an interest-only payment.
Okay. So like if I take out 50K, I might have a payment which doesn't pay down the amount, but every month it might be $100, $200 interest payment or whatever.
Now that you bring up payments, your payments can fluctuate because your rate is going to fluctuate according to the market.
Right. So with the HELOC, but
HELOC.
there is a fixed. No, there's no fix for HELOC, at least for your guys, as far as your guys concerned. Okay.
Yeah. So from what I understand, industry standard is they are always variable.
Okay.
They may give you a few months or a few years, depending upon, I guess,
Right.
certain.
Just
I
like a
guess,
credit card. A credit
absolutely.
card has a
where you
variable
have-
rate.
Okay, so you have this rate for this amount of time, but it will become varied, and it will be
Okay.
based on the market at that time. So
Okay.
So you have to, in my opinion, with that, you have to have a set goal or plans in order to enter into such a thing, like a
Right.
line of credit.
Okay.
There are so many moving parts, that you can kind of get lost. And if you're more so one who would prefer to have a set monthly payment that you can budget around and maintain your finances in a more constructive way, you want to go more for the home equity loan. You're borrowing 50 grand.
Right.
You know what your monthly payment is month in and month out, with the ability to prepay on both, but it's a structured payment, principal and interest payment, versus trying to manage an interest-only payment on the line of credit.
So, guys, the really important thing about loans over my length of experience here is that they're all different tools, and you have to know which tool you should be using for what your goal is. So, for my example, I would like to have access to funds. I want to be able to tap into my equity when I think the market goes down so I can buy more assets. And so I'm looking for the proper tool to use in that situation to maximize profits going into the recession, basically, right? So there's different ways that you can do it, and that's why we're trying to talk about this stuff. If you're not super sophisticated, you have to be careful, because if you're using a tool that you don't know how to use, you can hurt yourself. Just like if you're using a saw and you don't know how to use a saw, you might not want to use the most powerful saw because you might cut your hand off.
So if I were to speak to a customer and you stated that was your intent or purpose is to use the funds, I would totally be for it. I would not even bring up the alternative option to you.
Right.
If you said, "Hey, Talia, I'm looking for a HELOC," and then I ask you, what are your your goals, or what are your purposes for it? You said, I want to purchase properties going forward. To me, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Because essentially you're going to purchase other properties with it. The idea is that you gain profit from it, pay the line off, and then reuse it again.
Right, exactly. And for part of what I think the distinction for me is, I wouldn't want to do a cash, even if the rate was the same. I wouldn't really want to do a cash out and pull my equity when I don't know exactly when I'm going to utilize the money that I'm taking. Because I'm paying money, I'm paying interest on money. If I took out $50,000, if I don't have a good use for the $50,000, it's just costing me money just to put it in my bank account.
Absolutely.
So that again, this goes back to the tool thing. Is like you have to know what you're trying to accomplish, and because a lot of people get in trouble because they take out, like the last real estate crash was because people were taking out money and they weren't putting it into things that are beneficial, So even if I borrow against properties, which some people are even against doing that, they don't want to ever take their equity out. As long as your investment properties, in my case, would cash flow, it's very low risk, basically, because the renters are paying for whatever the payment is. I think you get in trouble if you borrow more than what your max payment was.
Even if I may say, like home improvement projects, that's also a great way to utilize a line of credit.
Right.
Some people do, I guess projects in series and steps. I'm sure you're familiar. So you do things in, I'm going to do the bathrooms. Okay, so you do the bathrooms, you pay down the line.
Right.
You come back. Now I'm going to do the kitchen. Okay, I'm going to, rip up all the floors. Like if you do it that way, it's a excellent way to have that access and that ability to tap in and out of it without paying additional fees. You avoid that. You have that accessibility over time whenever you're ready, and if you are financially savvy and can manage all the moving parts, it's a great tool.
Yeah, don't do that and just go on a vacation and buy Gucci belts and bottles of 1942, though.
But why does it have to be Gucci belts?
Because that's what people do.
They buy boats. They buy antique cars.
Lord, don't buy a boat or an antique car, man. God, people do stuff like that.
They pay for weddings. They use them for college. They do use HELOCs for college a lot.
Really?
When I processed at Trident, I remember clients getting a HELOC to pay for their wedding. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think? I don't think that's that horrible per se. I mean, that's an important thing.
They were like, well, we're going to use the wedding gifts to pay it back. So, I mean, it's not like they didn't have like a plan. And I guess that's better than like buying Gucci belts. But
you said for a wedding, you're going to tap into your equity for a wedding. Mm-hmm. That's a party for everyone else. To me, it's a party for everyone else.
It's a public declaration of your bond.
Okay, so you and Ryan are going into this, and you guys are there. You guys are so busy trying to make sure your day is okay, everything's going well.
My wedding got to be lit. I'm sorry,
but that's what I'm saying. So, like,
if I got to pull
really
equity,
going to enjoy a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 wedding?
It's
to me, it's a party for everyone else to enjoy. So why?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I hope it needed to be the best fucking party too. All right,
Okay.
We having the best party.
Yes.
Oh, Ryan's wedding was lit.
Okay. I wouldn't personally recommend it.
Here's why. So this is my romantic side.
Okay.
But it's like a wedding is a public declaration of your bond with your partner.
But does it need to cost so much?
If you're lit, yeah.
Okay. All right.
It's a bigger statement.
All right. But wouldn't you rather take that money and invest it in assets?
So if you don't have any assets, yes, I agree. But
even if you did, wouldn't you want to see, like,
sometimes you gotta live life. I'm getting old. I gotta enjoy some of this.
Right.
I've been dusty for a long
get
time.
the HELOC, pay for the wedding, pay off the wedding, and then go fix something. Go get a pool or something.
Yeah.
You know.
All right.
So
it's just, we got the equity, so we're going to use it.
I'm surprised that the women disagree with me on here.
No, it doesn't seem as if she disagrees.
Maybe, I don't know.
I mean, within reason, because sometimes I do feel like some things are like over the top. Like, all right, you don't have to have a $50,000 wedding, but like, 20, 25.
I almost want to ask.
You can have fun for 25.
I don't know how far down this wedding road, but I have a question. Like, this is just a random question. I'm sorry. We'll get back on. The next thing we're going to talk about is home improvement projects, because that's what we should flip our money into rather than weddings. It would be a smarter financial choice. But I do have a question, because I don't know the answer. If you have a destination wedding, do you pay for your people to get out there, or you make everyone pay?
No, I thought you make everyone else pay to get
Oh,
there.
that's not bossed
I don't know.
up.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
no.
I don't know. I thought people like if they wanted to go, am
Then
I
they
wrong?
pay.
They pay.
Normally, that's how it is. Like if you're a guest, then like you're paying your way. I know I've heard of like some brides and grooms that like they try to cover like maybe the bridal party, like their
yeah.
airfare or something, and then they pay for their own hotel or whatever. But it
So
all
you don't
depends on
accommodate
like
them.
Oh, you're trying to go all out.
I'm a host. I love creating the
Well,
good
invite
feelings.
us,
I know,
okay?
word.
And
Hostess
get you a
with the
HELOC
hostess.
and pay our way.
Yes, I
It's not looking. It's
benefit
not.
all the way around. I
it's
get
not-
to go. I get to get the commission. Like it all works out.
It's not looking good. It's not looking good for me on that front. So
Oh my
maybe it's
God.
not gonna happen. But I'll invite you if it does happen. But
That's cool. But if I may
yes.
say, the one thing that I do not suggest that people utilize HELOCs for is for debt consolidation.
Oh, good topic.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
good.
No.
Why not?
Because of you're trading one set of variable interest rates on credit cards
But what if it's less?
for another.
It's less though. You're saving money.
But to me, if you were having or experiencing difficulties just in general with managing your
You're
credits
right.
that way,
Good point.
why take it to another?
Right. You're just gonna mess it up, and now your house is at risk.
Your house is at risk.
Mhm.
Oh,
So-
can you
That makes sense.
explain the second lien position real quick for the people watching?
I mean, it's just
You know the deed stuff.
what us taking.
Well, what is the layman explanation of a second lien versus a first?
Well, the first, of course, I guess, is your traditional mortgage. If you have an existing mortgage,
Right.
they take.
Oh well, so here's what I was getting at is your first if they foreclose on your
I
house.
was about to get there.
Okay,
You
I know you know the answer. I was just I was
Look,
just
she's
trying
on her
to.
way. She's around the
I
corner.
was around, yeah,
I was
getting there.
expediting.
Nah,
You know.
but sometimes you got to break it down so they fully understand.
All right, you break.
know?
You got it.
So essentially, the order of operations is this, and this is how I explain it to people. So if you were to sell your home, okay,
Yeah, pay out the first one first.
your mortgage, the first mortgage company gets paid first. We're paid second. You're paid third. You receive the remaining proceeds from the sale of your property. That's the easiest way that anyone can understand it.
Right. And that's why, not to get into the weeds, but that's why the rates are higher and stuff like that, because there's more risk, because they have less likelihood in case of a disaster to get their money back. They're going to get their money back second. So for that reason, if the risk is higher, the rate is higher.
You have to pay a premium
get
for
that.
it.
That makes sense.
So, Candace, home improvement projects. That's what we should be doing instead of going to Barbados for the wedding.
Yeah. I mean, Barbados is more fun than redoing a kitchen.
Is it though? Because
But-
if your house is redone real nice, you get to like invite people over.
That's true.
But also,
That's
so here's the thing though. A big thing for HELOCs, or at least from my understanding, is that a lot of people do it to do home improvement projects, which makes sense because if you pull out equity, if your house is worth $300,000 and you're able to take $50K out and do a kitchen renovation, the value of your asset goes up if you do a good job and do the right things, which I want to talk about, like what are good things to do as far as if you were doing it for a business purpose
So
for
you're
your
saying
house,
like value-added improvement.
adding value to your house. And this is up my alley because I love design and flipping and doing all that stuff, so I can't wait to talk about this. But I think that's the most popular thing to do.
It is.
What do you think? What's your most common purpose of the HELOC? I guess is what do people? What's the most the thing that they cite? Is it home improvement?
Home improvements and investments, future investments.
Oh, really? People
Absolutely.
are doing that.
Yeah, lots of people are buying multiple properties, so
What the heck?
they'll utilize their existing home, and then they'll take the HELOC out. They'll buy a property, they rent it out, they flip it, they do whatever they do. It might be a second home, might be an Airbnb,
Hey.
all sorts of things like that. They do that. quite
Do you
often.
prefer one over the other? The home equity loan versus line of credit?
I prefer
for that.
For those purposes, I think they're valid.
Okay.
Like if someone is saying, okay, I'm going to do a number of projects over a course of time, or I'm going to invest. All right, I get it. And I can hear certain things in the way that they're speaking to me. A home equity line of credit all day, because you seem savvy enough to be able to manage it.
Mm-hmm.
If you have one set, like, oh, I'm just going to install a pool. you know how much the contract is already. You know how much
Right.
you need. You may borrow slightly above
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that you have a little
Mhm.
extra just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do have a cool story about that. Somebody borrowed a certain amount of money years ago,
Uh-huh.
and she was pretty. She was one of those people who was really indecisive. No, I don't want to borrow that much. I will borrow this. And they came back. Oh no, I want to do this. And then she closed. They ripped her bathroom up. Found all sorts of plumbing issues. She had to
needed
come
more
back, and
money.
I had to redo it all over
Oh,
again, which
wow.
was
Oh my god.
it was fine, but it kind of sucked for her because if she would have started with the higher number, she would have had more.
Well,
than
let me
enough.
ask you, why would I do the fixed? Is there any financial benefit of doing the HE instead of the line of credit?
Absolutely.
So, guys, the HE, just the HE, home equity,
HELOC.
HELON,
Mm-hmm.
is fixed.
It's a fixed interest
Your
rate.
payment's the same.
And it's an amortized payment. So I think that someone having let's say a $500 payment on a $100,000 loan, it makes perfect sense because when you're sitting
Right.
down doing your month-to-month budgeting,
It's easier.
it's a lot easier. You know that payment is what it is month in and month out. You shouldn't mess that up.
So that's just is the only reason you do it because you don't know what you're doing. Is like, so? For example, if you get a variable rate mortgage,
Mhm.
I think you got to be a bit more sophisticated to know what you're trying to do
Yeah,
with
but
that.
you also have to understand that people have a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear when it comes to
Yeah.
variable interest
Yeah.
rates.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
in-
People
in
still
the past.
people still hold that.
Yeah.
Like those generations that saw
They're
what
scared.
happened, they
Mhm.
don't play with them.
Right,
So they rather take out money,
right.
know what their payment is. They pay it off really aggressively. Usually, they set themselves
Right.
up with a comfortable payment.
Or you're moving in the 5 to 7 years before it adjusts.
That too.
But my thing is but what I was trying to get at is when you do the variable first mortgage, the adjustable mortgage, blah, you get a lower introductory rate. So that's the benefit of doing it. Plus, if the rates go down on the adjustment period, the rate will actually go down. What is the financial? Is there a financial benefit of having the fixed payment on the HELOC loan
HELOC.
versus the HELOC? See, I'm learning things. I wasn't aware of this.
You're saying the financial benefit. I would say budgeting, especially for those that are doing debt consolidation. That's a great way for them to benefit from paying off their debt.
Right.
Gaining,
Oh,
and
debt
the idea would be to
consolidation,
gain
right.
better financial habits.
Mhm.
Okay. So
And-
basically, that's more like a training wheels type of thing versus the HELOC is you're kind of you're freestyling.
Yeah, but I mean, would you like? I just prefer the HELOC. I think it puts people in a better position overall.
Okay.
You know, like if you do.
Yeah, but the HELOC, I don't have to pay anything, but I
you
have
to pay
access
an annual
to
fee.
it.
Yes, you do.
So what's the
Yeah.
annual fee look like? And then we have a question from David Rodriguez that I want to get
It's
to.
like a credit card, so it's an annual.
My credit
fee.
cards don't have annual fees. We talked about this. I don't know that bougie stuff where you get concierge.
Whenever I see an annual
Yeah, I'll be
fee, I'm
like,
like,
click
that's not
off.
the
I don't
card
want
for
that.
me.
But apparently you get
You get all sorts of cool things: concierge services, cool inns and reservations, access to
do
lounges.
you use this stuff?
Absolutely.
I don't see. That's a different lifestyle. I need to
I was
level
about to say
up
that's
more. I
next
don't
level
know.
bougie. I'm like,
Maybe after my HELOCs and I level
I'm
up.
entry level bougie.
Right? I know. All right, David Rodriguez. Now, when you use the HELOC, what is the ideal exit storage? It says storage ring, but I think it means strategy on paying off the HELOC by having the rents pay it down or do a refi to pay the entire HELOC off.
Mm,
That is a good
that is a
question.
good
It's
question.
a great one.
I wonder where I'm going with that because I haven't gone that far. Because my thing is, equity is free money. It doesn't actually exist because if like for example, if my $300,000 house goes down to $250,000, I didn't lose $50,000 because I never had the 50. But if I do the HELOC, now I have that money.
Yeah.
So I'm not super concerned with paying it off as long as whatever assets I purchase are able to cover the monthly. Because the main benefit of real estate, the cash flow is cool, but the capital appreciation is even more valuable because now you have another property. So the value of that property eventually you'll start building equity in that property.
But I do have a question for you
Mhm.
because you're saying pay down the monthly being only interest only though. So are you really benefiting?
I think he's saying paying it off. So if I take out a HELOC for
Mhm.
$50K, I use that as the down payment. So now I'm paying a first and a second essentially for this property.
Mhm.
But I can reduce my cash, like my expenses, my monthly expenses, by paying down the HELOC to zero or to no balance, because
Correct.
now I no longer have a payment against it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what he's talking about. My thing is, if this is something that I teach you in business school, which is like the only thing I feel like, well, one of the only things I thought was valuable, and it's super simple. If I can borrow money at 10% and make 12%, I've created 2% for free money.
Absolutely.
So as long as your ROI is above, why would you pay it back? Just keep borrowing more money. As long as your ROI exceeds your rate,
Mm-hmm.
there's no reason to pay it back, really. ROI is return on investment. Thank you, Kiana, our producer, keeping us on point with our terms. So yeah, if I can make a higher return than what my interest rate is, I'm sure there's reasons, but I actually can't really think of why I would pay it down. Other than, I guess you would pay it down to do another one. But why would I do that? I would just use the cash instead of paying down the 50. If I had another 50,000, why would I pay off the HELOC? I'll just use the 50,000
the
for a
reason
down
why you
payment.
would pay it off is because then you'll get to avoid. The idea to me would be to avoid
higher
any
rate.
potential higher rate jumps. So that's going to cost you more in the long run, and then
That's the vulnerability.
we're stuck on the draw period. We're not getting into the repayment period. Now
Right.
you've paid interest for 10 years. Wait, but you have this 20-year repayment
good
period.
point.
Now you're paying principal
Good point.
and interest
Yes.
locked in for another 20 years.
So that payment
that's-
might kill your cash flow on a rental property.
Essentially, either way.
So you do want to pay it off before the repayment period.
Absolutely.
So you want to pay within that 10-year
Absolutely,
draw
that's the
period.
best
Whatever
way to
your draw period
maximize.
is.
That's the best way to maximize the
makes
use of a
sense.
line of credit.
David
Gotcha.
Rodriguez, that was a good question, because I'm just like, so when I come out with these topics and stuff, I'm trying to think of things that are realistic to me so that I can ask really good, accurate questions, because these are things that I'm thinking about. And I haven't gotten to the end of this strategy yet because I haven't implemented it yet.
Mhm.
So that's a really good point. But I think we're coming up with pretty good financial rules if someone was listening to this and was planning on buying an investment property, because the rule, take out the HELOC but pay it back before the repayment period. But before then, I don't think you need to pay it off, because you're just stopping the interest-only payments.
Yeah, but you stop the interest-only payments, and now you're freeing up additional accessibility to do more with. And you can sit the money in an account, and there are accounts that are yielding 1.5% APY.
They're getting
in
better,
savings.
yeah.
So you can totally sit it there,
That's true.
have that money,
Just let it
collect,
grow.
let it grow,
Right.
and then you could just reuse the bank's money all over again.
Right. So either way, it's kind of flexible. That's why I like it, right? You can
Mhm.
pay it down, or you can just keep stacking the money from your investments and then buy another one, or pay it down. But pay it down before the repayment period sounds about right.
I think I like this more than the cash out, because I've been thinking about doing one, but because of the rates and stuff like that, because I want to flip something or buy something. I'm kind of, that's like what's going through my mind right now. But yeah, because of the rates and stuff, I'm like, okay, well, cash out doesn't sound like the
And
best
cost.
option.
Because
Yeah,
you're stuck with the whole amount at the higher rate
exactly.
instead of just the 50 or 30 or whatever you need to borrow.
right.
And you're going to double your rate, because most people are at 3. So now you're going from
Mhm.
3 to 6. And you got that for 30 years, no matter, that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation,
Mhm.
because
Yeah, like
see,
the
I didn't even think about
Yeah.
the HELOC, because all I know is the traditional first.
out
I don't know
refinance, yeah.
seconds.
But the cash, you got to keep in mind, cash out refinances are very expensive.
They are. The
Mhm. They are
closing
extremely
The
costs.
closing
expensive.
costs, yeah.
But closing costs on the second lien products can range anywhere from, on average, about $1,000, and if you go into higher loan amounts,
Right.
Because then they're just charging for additional things, that comes with
Mhm.
borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars, like $5,000, $1,000 to $5,000 in
Right.
comparison to
It's
10,
nothing.
20,000,
Exactly.
and they're eating most of your cash up, your equity up that you were looking and expecting to receive.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
Yeah,
why
there's
not
no
give
point.
somebody like $1,000 to $5,000? All right, cool, that's off the top, and I get the rest of the cash to do what I need to do with it.
Right.
Exactly.
That makes sense. One last question for you, because I know we're about to shift topics. When like if a buyer or borrower or whatever comes to you to get one of those, whether it's the HELOC or the HELOC, is an appraisal done?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you got to pay for the appraisal.
You have to pay for an appraisal.
Okay.
So you have
And that's part of those fees you were already talking about.
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm like,
Fee number 2.
Right.
No. But like they have
like
options now.
500
Like there's
though.
so many
Yeah.
options. Remember, they're doing automated valuation models now.
Ew.
Yeah, but they
Some
come.
Zillow stuff.
I was about to say,
But you run it through, like anything else, like your credit, it's ran through an algorithm and
Right.
it spits back a number at
Right.
you. And then I'm like, hey, this is the number. Like, if it's super close and it doesn't affect any changes to their loan and their structure as I initially presented to them, why not go for it?
Right.
It's an easier process. It's no muss, no fuss. It's super simple. They're just going to ride by and do a PCI, a property inspection, take photos, and keep it moving. That's it.
Gotcha.
You have they also offer now drive-bys. Everybody loves a good drive-by.
Well, I think I think in general though, for appraisals, just in a general sense, if you are in a neighborhood and there's similar model homes in your area, it's pretty easy to figure out what your value is based off of what the other homes.
Not
don't-
necessarily.
Well,
I've experienced where people, like in newer developments, they will not appraise a home on a drive-by appraisal basis. They can't do it. They're like, oh, these are too new. We don't.
Well,
know.
new is tough. I'm talking about like, if it's new, that's different because
Yeah.
that's kind of unique. But I'm talking about like if you live in like my neighborhood here, you guys can't, the audience can't see, but there's like 4 model houses here, and these houses were built in the 60s, let's say, I think, and so I have the rancher. I mean, does it have a finished basement or not? That's like there's not a lot of variation. Like there is some. So like I think Zestimates and algorithms work for that better versus some house in California Hills that
No, they work
like,
pretty good for them.
You think so?
Oh,
Really?
they do.
Really?
When they're unique like
They
that?
do. So, like, for instance, if somebody will say, oh, my house recently is 1.3, it came back 1.193. It did not affect their loan, so it was a beautiful, beautiful way to go.
Hey.
Super easy for me and the customer.
Well, it might
So
work.
was perfect.
No, but I get it that it might work out. But as far as like accuracy, might be a little
But
suspicious.
when it comes to a second lien, you're not looking for accuracy.
really,
You're
it's
not
a
necessarily
strict-
looking for accuracy.
Oh, okay.
A lot of times, what you're looking for is how can I service this borrower, this customer,
Mhm.
in a way that they'll be comfortable with the rate, the payment. It all aligns and is structured with their goals, and the value is not saying, oh, this is your
Right,
value of your
right.
home.
It's
So
just
it
for the
doesn't
bank,
really, yeah,
right.
it's just for our purposes to know how much we can lend you.
Okay.
That's it. So
that's
it
a good
doesn't.
point.
None of those things matter. You don't have to be super fussy and say, I must have a full appraisal. You must.
Oh, I don't want one either. I
No,
agree
but
with
some
you.
people they're
Ew.
like, oh, I must. I'm like, okay, whatever. But have you had value added improvements done to your home? That's when you want an appraiser to come in to fully assess and take into those things into account to give you the maximum value.
Which leads us into a good place because I have a rancher, which is not that many square feet, but I've put my own custom spin on everything. I have, like, for example, like my appliances are the GE Cafe series, which costs like 2 times more of regular appliances, right? And well, appliances aren't part of the house anyway, but like if they came with the house, would people pay more for it? I don't think so. So there's certain improvements that you can do that'll help your value if you really care about your home value, going back to kind of like the HELOC thing, and how appraisers are going to look at your property and stuff like that. I wonder, Candace, what do you think about this? Because I did this whole outdoor kitchen. I have a whole flat griddle out there from France, imported.
Oh my
I have
gosh.
a professional grill. I've got a 13-foot bar with granite countertops, dishwasher, hot and cold water sink out there, 2 mini fridges, a beverage cooler, a wine cooler, and a regular traditional fridge, outdoor rated. I got the pool. I got the tiled floors.
The TV.
I'm putting the TVs up. And so, but I wonder, like, what does that do for my resale value? Because it's so specific to what I'm doing. So I'm like, obviously, if you were flipping a house, I want to do this, right? I want to do this on a flip. But like, what's the balance between like custom versus like, getting the most bang for your buck?
Do you not feel like those improvements that he made would speak to a specific buyer?
Yeah, if I was trying to sell my
Yeah.
house, do you think it would be like a good selling feature? Because sometimes a pool's a negative, right?
No, but you have the pool
people
and
don't
you have
want a
that
pool.
wonderful outdoor
Right.
area. I think
Right.
it would speak to someone like,
Mhm.
oh, I don't have to do any of
Right.
this.
But
Yeah.
it's a
all
specific
set.
person. And
Absolutely.
normally you see this type of stuff on houses that are much bigger where they have big families. This is like a starter home, basically. And so, like,
But with the ultimate backyard.
Yeah.
so who's buying a start? Yeah,
It
who's
should
buying?
have totally been on HGTV, like one of those projects.
Yep.
I look on Pinterest and I'm like, mine's better than these.
And
But-
you recorded the process, right?
A
Didn't
little
you?
bit, I've been doing bad guys.
Yeah, he
I've been
needs to,
off of the
like-
content because I'm doing the work. It's hard to do the work. I need to hire somebody. We're in talks. I have a business proposition for Candace here. Maybe we'll figure some things out.
I'm in.
But what do you? Well, I hear when I flip a house, it's kitchens and bathrooms, but also opening walls and increasing function. So if a house was
Yes.
built in the 60s or what, like basically if the house was built before like the 1980s, the closets are small, the bedrooms are much smaller, and they have a dining room. And so I think those are like the top things, obviously kitchens and bathrooms, but anytime you can remove walls, sometimes repurposing dining rooms as to be part of the living space, people like that. What else is out there? Landscaping is a funny one. I usually don't spend a lot of money on landscaping, although when we show houses, landscaping really matters. The people, as long as it's clean and
Curb
like,
appeal.
Yeah.
it matters a lot.
I'd never
do you think?
agree when I have a seller who like has a whole budget just for landscaping. I'm gonna put down these pavers and I'm gonna power wash and I'm gonna
To sell their
I'm like-
house,
I'm like, can we just power wash, make it look clean,
Right.
and cut the grass? Because I'd rather you take these other couple of $1,000 and instead of you buying these top-notch roses that I don't know about y'all, but I can't keep plants alive.
yeah.
So before you spend all that money there, like let's put a fresh coat of paint on the interior instead of having
I was gonna
6
ask
different
you
paint
that.
colors, different things like that.
You would tell people to paint.
I told us my last listing, I had the sellers paint.
They had
Yeah.
funky colors, or were the walls scuffed up?
A little bit of both. So there were like small holes that look like maybe they like drilled things in the wall
Oh,
and just
yeah,
like
that's
left
not
it
good.
behind. So that's a little bit of an eyesore. And then like the kids' bedrooms, I guess they like all chose their color. So there was like one orange room, one blue room, one pink room. I'm
That-
like, can we just put like just have some painters come and let's just do white everywhere?
White it out.
Isn't
Yeah.
it so crazy? Buyers can't see through paint for some reason. I'm like,
They
why do you
can't.
care about this? Like, just paint it. Like, who cares?
They can't. Hot market, pretty big house for the price and everything. So in my mind, I felt like the potential was there.
Right?
And at the time, my sellers, they were like, we want to sell as is. We don't want to put any money into this. And I'm like, all right, guys, like, well, then the price is going to have to reflect that. House sat on the market for a couple weeks, no offers, no nothing. I came back to my sellers. I'm like, listen, I know you guys said you didn't want to put any money into this. I'm like, but trust me.
You'll get the money back.
Yeah. I'm like, trust me on this. Let me have my painters come. Just paint the inside white. I took the house off the market just for 2 weeks to
White,
give them
though?
time to. That was like the cheapest color. It was between
people need
that
to
and just like a
see.
gray or something neutral.
But do you not feel like white? We were discussing this previously. White gives people a fresh area to kind of
They
see
don't have vision.
themselves.
They don't have vision. Buyers don't
What?
have vision. You
Are
might.
you serious?
I'm telling you.
Like if
you-
I see white, Ryan, I'm seeing like, oh, what I could do here, what I
Yeah.
would put it there. You know how I would paint it, what I would adorn the room with.
I've tested this a little bit, and you gotta. It's like Steve Jobs and the iPhone. You gotta show the people what they want.
Yeah.
You can't just like they don't really have a good idea. First time home buyers, they don't know. You know what I mean? Like you. That's why I really disagree with white. I hate white
Mhm.
because
I
people
personally-
don't know.
Yeah. My first house had white everywhere. Hated it. hated it. But the
no
reason why I
character.
told the sellers was, one, I knew my sellers didn't want to put out too much money, and
Right.
painters told me that white would be the cheapest. So I was
Really?
just, I
That-
was
that's
shocked
a
because
good
I thought
one.
with white, multiple coats, all of
Well,
that.
because they're not painting the trim a different color. That's why.
Exactly.
And the
So they were all for it. I'm like, so I took the house off the market for like a week or two just to let the painters come. Had the photographer do new pictures. I had like 4 offers within the first 2 days when I put it back on the market.
Isn't
so
that's
just
so goofy?
paint made a whole
It's
difference.
so goofy. Fresh paint makes such a regardless of the color. Fresh paint, because I had to rent my old house was all jacked up
Mm.
that I was living in before I moved here, and then I'm renting that house out now, and I had it painted, and it was like, wow, this looks like a new house.
Paint. Yeah.
But that's because I had scuffed up stuff, not because of the color. But I think the color helps. And right now grays are in. When is gray gonna be out? Yeah, I'm tired of this.
I'm not a fan.
I got the classic French gray here, but
I like it.
still,
I think it goes well for you. You're a male. It works.
yeah,
But I'm just like, it's just, I think it's overdone. Like when you're looking at homes.
it's so
and you're-
safe. Every house is
Every
gray.
house is gray.
Take
Yeah.
a risk.
Like, is there any imagination? Like any?
At this point, it's
there's,
definitely
there's
overdone.
such a world of color out there.
But
Like
people
there's-
do love it still. Like it's risky to go color. And I actually read this architect, and he was talking about that he hates American style, and it was such a good point because he said everyone is doing their house based off of the resale value later rather than their own taste or what they like.
Mhm.
That's what I try to do here. I do like the French gray actually, and this is a darker gray. I wouldn't have done this in a flip house,
Mhm.
but I think that's so American. Is like, and we're all money focused, so like
Yeah.
we're like, well, I'm gonna sell this house in 10 years, so let me
Absolutely.
do it so that when the resale value is a lot,
To-
and I think we don't take risks.
But to
with,
your
like,
point,
what
you
we
took
do.
a risk in that backyard. You did it to
That's
your own taste.
But yeah, exactly, because I had no.
exactly. But that's what I don't know. I would think that most people would do that.
They
I would
don't.
customize a home how I want it. Like as soon as my children leave, I'm customizing my home how I want it. Right now, it's functional for them.
I think
if
it's when
they-
you're older.
You think so?
When it's like your second or third home, when you're like, this is my forever home, you start thinking like that. And I actually think it's good when buyers, first time buyers or even second time, are kind of like open to like give and take with certain stuff, because then you can make a better financial decision, which I'm kind of contradicting as far as the style, but it on like a dollars and cents, it makes sense to like kind of be like, whatever the color, this and that would deal with later.
Mhm. I agree with that. By the way,
Get
I
in your
love
first-
gray, and my whole house is gray.
Really?
Like it's
Do
it's
you
gray
really love it?
everywhere. Furniture is gray. The rugs are gray. Like
Or you just grayed
Guys,
out.
Gray,
and
gray,
let me
gray,
just put
gray.
this out here as a thing about gray. Okay, let me. Gray is a combination of black and white. Black and white are not colors, so any true neutral gray is neutral. But most grays have a color influence. So, for example, if you're at the Home Depot or whatever, or at the paint store, there's the splotches, the little color splotches are set out in a way for like so you'll see the blues, and when you go down far enough, they'll start looking gray because
Yeah.
they're adding black into it to make it more, and black and white is gray. And so, but they'll have a color influence. So you should look, might not be able to physically see the color, but it has a color.
mhm.
So make sure that if you are picking a gray, that okay, if like a green gray goes better with orange color floors or natural wood color floors, because green is a complementary color to orange.
Mhm.
Just like if you're doing a blue, what goes with blue? Orange goes with blue too, actually. But basically, all I'm saying is make sure you understand the color influence of the gray that you're picking, unless it's a very true neutral gray. But if you're not sure, ask, because colors in the store and all that stuff with the lighting can look different from when you paint it. But
Mhm.
the cheat code is look at the other splotches, and you'll start seeing what the color influence of that gray is, because people don't know this.
This
You're
is why we
looking at
talked
me
about
crazy.
design because you
You just went on the whole. You had a whole dissertation about
perfect.
gray. And
I
was
love
like-
design.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Now
It's
I
so
get
true,
it.
People don't
though.
know. They just pick a gray. They're like, oh, that looks cool. But then, like, you'll be like, wait, this is like bluish.
Mm-hmm.
And certain colors go with blue that don't go with a green gray
Mhm.
or a red gray even. When I say the color red, that's just the color influence. It's not like that cup color right there.
Right.
I pointed to the cup. I was hoping that you would hit the wide shot. Kiara, over here. I'm talking to my producer. See, you have your primary colors and all that stuff. So like every color comes from RGB, red, green, blue,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just combinations of those colors. So basically, certain colors, the color science, they go
So
with each
you
other.
were
and stuff
watching
like
the
that.
guy squirt all the different colors in the can at the store.
On the back of the splotch,
No,
it
I'm
has a
just
color
messing with
code.
you.
I'm yeah. So
I was about to say I read the color codes.
No, I don't read the color codes, but I have seen them do it where you're like, oh snap!
I'm
this is the
obsessed with color
combination.
science.
With the
When they
drops
drop
and
them
stuff.
in from
Yeah.
the machine, so that's why I thought. Like,
so
I was
so this goes to my other pet peeve, and it comes from like selling Sunset. And again, this is a criticism of American home decor, but like on really expensive rich properties that are renovated, they're all freaking just pure white, and all it says is rich and luxurious, but it has no character. And I think just like the grays, I feel like people are scared to make a choice with color because colors mean a lot of different things. There's a lot of meaning and feeling and emotion behind colors
Mm-hmm.
that people don't really realize. And I just think, like, if you look at Selling Sunset, I hate all the decor of those properties. They're just ugly
But-
because they're afraid to make a choice.
But do you think that that's just like, I guess people mirroring and mimicking style? What they feel is like, I guess, the end thing to do. Because like when you look at a lot of listings, you see a lot of gray. You see a lot of the same shaped cabinets. You
expected.
see a lot of the same flooring. You see a lot of it's pretty much the same as cookie cutter from house to house,
Mm-hmm.
especially when people are flipping homes.
It's a lack of style.
I was about to ask if you felt like
So
it's a lack of like creativity in a way.
it is a lack of creativity, and I think if you do, but people don't, because color science is an actual thing, right? So like you can't just do anything. You have to do things that make sense. For example, in my living room, everything's kind of has a blue to it,
Mhm.
right? But there's something called rhythm where you have like if technically this floor is blue, I would say this is blue, right? And then I have the neutral, and then the top is white. But the complementary color, if you go through this house, is orange because orange is a complementary color. So I was talking about putting the rugs down in my house, and when I said orange, everybody hated the idea. And now that orange rug, everybody likes it. Plus, then it has a rhythm because I have an orange rug, and then I have an orange piece of artwork on the wall. So it's blue, orange, neutral, orange, blue again with the furniture. So it
Mhm.
creates a pattern. So these are all things that people don't, these are all interior design things, like if you read it in a book. That's why people don't make these choices, because if you make everything gray, it'll match, but it's monochromatic. It's boring.
Right.
There's no points of emphasis. That's what color, like you can use color to draw people's attention
So if
to.
I may ask, like, what happened to people just saying, "Oh, I like that ottoman. I like that sofa.
You know why?
I like that."
That's
picture."
exactly the
And
problem.
put it in a room.
No, that's why that's
you know, like what happened to that?
That's why people are unhappy with the furniture that they buy, because it doesn't look like in the showroom, because that particular piece has a sizing that has to match the room, and the color has to go with the other colors. It has to complement, or it has to contrast, depending on what you're trying to do. Like my couches are blue. If you put my blue couches in, if I had like a traditional wood color floor, like a light wood color floor, it would look horrendous, because it's not, they're clashing at that point. So it's not that you might have like, oh, I like a blue couch, but it's the space. Everything has to tie together. You can't just
I get that, because it just seems like you're just going on like you're methodically thinking, and I'm just saying, like, what's wrong with people just picking what
no
they
style.
like? Just
That's
pick
like,
what you like and put it in
no,
the room.
you don't do that with your clothes though. You don't just be like, I like this shirt independently of these pants.
Who doesn't?
You just pick any shirt and any pair of pants.
It's
They
quite
have to go
possible.
together.
No, not necessarily.
I disagree.
No, but not necessarily. There are times where you might pick, like, seriously, you might go in the store and you see this shirt and you hold onto that shirt because you're like,
But you have to put it with something.
I just can't. But then you're in the store like a week or two later and you're like, these pants, and you're like, oh, I have this shirt. Let me put it together.
Yes.
Oh
you
my
could
gosh,
do
this
that.
is amazing. It worked out beautifully.
No, I agree with that. But when you buy furniture, you're kind of stuck with it. So the things have to go together. Your shirt you have in your wardrobe until you find the complementary piece that goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes with shapes and styles. Like my couches are the 70s, the tuffing. This is a 70s retro thing. And then like the light fixtures, if they're modern and then you have like retro 70s, they clash. These are all things, if you guys really, like if you're flipping a house or trying to add value to your house, these are the things that don't cost extra money that if you get right, people won't notice, but they'll like your house.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you actually can, like...
You're saying in terms of staging.
Yeah, it's like staging.
Mm-hmm.
But staging, you take the stuff down. You know, the way you paint, like, your wall color and your floor color and that stuff. But that's why they go neutral, because you could stage it with colors.
Like, you just went, like, super deep. And
I'm obsessed with like
it.
color and
no,
style.
I get it, but it was
know.
just like it was super deep. But it's
I'm
like
sitting here like it's time for me to get new living room
it's super
furniture.
thought provoking, right? But like I still
Call me when you guys are planning on.
No, I'll call
doing
you when my
something.
finished product is done. And I said, guess what? I walked in this store
I'm
and I
the
picked
wrong
that
person
up,
to
and I
ask. No,
picked
don't
that
tell
up,
me.
and I picked that up.
Don't
and
ask me what I think.
But
'cause
listen,
I
but you
have
might come in
opinions.
like. No, seriously, because like I have this piece and it's like the coolest piece ever. I walked in the store and I saw it. It's I guess you could say hammered silver,
Mhm.
and it's a really pretty on the back end and like a beautiful wood, but it's like this beautiful design and like it's silver. So I just put that piece in my living room with gold pieces, like, and it worked. Like I don't like I
Silver and gold.
yes. See?
No comment.
See?
I'm like, I probably gotta see it because I've seen some.
Because
It can be done. It can be
Yeah.
done very well. That one
No.
piece is just a piece.
just kidding. Maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, but
But,
I
like,
just
all my
find
fixtures
pieces
are
and I find a
gold.
place for them.
You're like, this will be perfect, right?
I think that's
Yep.
the big mistake that people do with their house, though, and not specifically your
Yeah.
thing, but they see something in the store and they like it, and they just buy it independently of the other things in the house,
Yeah.
and then you'll be like, this don't make any sense. Same thing with furniture and all that stuff. But let me get to David Rodriguez's question, and thanks for watching. And if anybody else has questions, tap in because we're about to wrap it up. So we'll do some Q&A at the end if some people get in here. David Rodriguez, if a person has equity, example 50,000. So remember though, if you have 50,000 in equity, you can only tap in 75% or 80% loan. Whatever the percentage is, it's not 100%.
It can
So-
go up as high as 95% right now. We used to go to 100% at times, and some lenders did.
Dang, I
So
wish I had my soundboard. I would have hit the Drake. Goddamn, goddamn. If a person has equity, example 50,000, is that person in a good position in a market crash versus someone that has liquid cash, 50K in savings? I'd rather have 50K in savings because if you have the equity also, then now you have 100K.
Mm-hmm.
Cash is always better, but if you also have equity, like the thing about this market crash and equity is like if you don't tap into your equity, it will vanish.
No, because you have to keep in mind, although you have that line of credit open
Mm-hmm.
for whatever amount you initially qualify for, that bank has every right to close it.
They can just close a HELOC.
Really?
Oh, I'm
given
glad you
time.
said that.
So
Wait, how can they can call it due?
yeah, absolutely.
They could say
They
no.
can reassess the information. They can reassess your credit scores. They can reassess the market value of the property. They can
What?
reassess anything.
Oh.
And they can say, oh, nope, never mind.
Oh, you
Wait, I'm glad you mentioned
glad-
it. You should have said that earlier because
yeah.
I
No,
thought
but
I
when
was
he-
getting the
when-
HELOC,
when-
but now I think I'm getting the HE loan.
No, but see, but when what was it?
Why'd
Mr.
you
Rodriguez?
hold that in your pocket?
Because when he asked the question, it was valid. Like I can't come up with everything. I thought this was going to be a fluid conversation.
Well, I'm glad that came out. Mr. Rodriguez gave us 2 good points here. that I
Yes,
didn't know.
very much so. Yeah,
Wait,
and it just
wait,
came
so
to
there's
me.
a clause because on your first mortgage they can't do that. Why can they? What? There's a clause in there they can call your loan due. So say there's a market. So I take out 50K HELOC.
Mhm.
and the market crashes 50%. I don't think that's going to happen, guys.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But if that did happen, and I have all 50K drawed out
Mhm.
before my repayment period,
Oh, your repayment period will kick in if they feel the need to do so.
but then why is there a repayment period if they can do whatever they feel like doing?
There's always contingencies when you're borrowing someone else's money. Because
What-
technically
so
the
what are
equity
the-
is not yours.
Yeah, but there's no clause in a there's a call on due on a first, but there's certain stipulations that have to happen. Like you'd have to breach your loan for them to call your loan due. Calling the loan due is them saying, "Hey, we need all the $1
Yeah,
million."
but they're not going to say all of it. They're just going to put you on a payment schedule from here on out. But you just no longer have access to draw. That drawing capability is lost.
So if there was a market crash, they could reduce your stuff.
They could reduce your line, or they could close the line out altogether for you to access it to draw.
Even if you're still in the draw period.
Correct.
They can do that on a credit card too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
They can lower your limit. They can do whatever they want.
they can close the account if they want to.
So that, guys,
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's
yeah.
true.
well, that's a big downside versus the HE loan.
The HE loan, once you get it, is closed ended.
It's
You
fixed.
got it. That's
They
it.
can't call that one
They
due.
can't call that one. That's it.
And you just making the payments like
You're
regular.
making payments, or you,
Mm.
or
I might-
you're,
I might
or
do that.
you do what I took.
Gems. Yo, who's talking about this on the internet? Because I learned stuff I ain't even know.
Right.
So I'm so glad you decided to come, even though you said you're not a big public speaker.
Thanks for exposing my weakness.
What?
You're
You did so
surely
good.
speaking
I'm
publicly
playing.
today.
You talk the most. I'm just
I'm
asking
just kidding
you.
you. I'm just kidding.
I'm asking
No,
you
you're
hard
doing
professional
great.
questions.
No, but that's why I'm just an advocate for the HE loan. It just puts you in an easier position overall. I tell everyone, pay down your principal. Throw an extra 50, 100,
Yeah.
like you should with anything else. Just pay it down. Save yourself a little bit of cash, and then when you can't or you don't want to,
But I like debt a lot.
you do like that.
I love debt.
I don't.
I'm
It
trying to
stresses
get
me
to.
out.
Love
Wait,
having
I'm-
other people's money.
I'm at 1.2.
And
I
spending
love
it.
other people's money.
No.
My
no.
goal. I had a goal to be at $1 million.
But what kind of debt?
loans.
You're
I've
saying
already got-
revolving
I'm
debt,
at- I'm-
installment debt,
You should see my credit report.
loans. You know what I mean? Like, what kind of debt do you like?
Good debt for debt on assets
Okay,
that
but-
are exceed the value of the debt.
Okay, what you just said,
Yeah.
I think you need to explain exactly what a good debt and a bad debt is in your eyes.
Having a mortgage on a property that generally appreciates in value and cash flows, where the rent is paying you at least what it's costing you to run the property and
Okay.
pay the mortgage. That's good debt.
Good debt. All right, what would you consider something to be bad?
A credit card debt for a Gucci belt.
So revolving in this Gucci
No,
belt
but it
that you're so fixated.
Look,
with.
if you started a business on a credit card, that's
Mhm.
probably not the ideal way to finance your business. But if your business is exceeding the rate of the card that you're borrowing, that's okay debt.
Okay, debt. Yeah.
I think you should talk to loan people and figure out a better strategy.
Yeah.
But if all you could get was a credit card to start your business and the business does well,
I was just asking because
I'll
you were
give you a
like, oh,
pass.
like I like debt and I'm carrying,
I like
like I
debt.
like to carry a lot of debt. You can't say that to everyone. That's not cool.
I think we've had a good conversation to be able to say that in the context of this.
Which, you know what I mean? You
It-
got to add a little bit more to it. Like, no, revolving.
we just
Try to
talked
stay away from revolving
David
debt,
Rodriguez
people.
knows exactly what he
Yeah,
means.
right.
Okay, all right. As long as
We-
he knows.
We just talked for an hour about using the debt to basically buy or improve your assets. So in
Okay.
that context,
No, okay, yeah.
because
That's
I had a
fair.
goal. I was like, all right, I want to get to $1 million in debt. Because then net worth.
Says no one ever.
But then you're a millionaire next.
Yeah.
But then once you get net worth $1 million, which if you have $1 million in debt and you're whatever your LTVs are, loan to values, basically how much you owe against the property value, you'll be a millionaire eventually. Like, so if I just pay my stuff down, I'll automatically become a millionaire because my assets,
Your assets
are some derivative of my debt.
Mm-hmm.
So the more you pay down, now you're a millionaire secretly.
Mhm.
But do you feel like this country loves debt? Because I feel like they do, and they love to recycle debt.
Look, I just think that people,
I agree.
yes, that but it's not debt. They're just not. People don't think for the future.
They don't, and there's not enough education either, or maybe there is. It's just
No,
not.
there is. They don't give
They're
them.
just not. Yeah, that's really.
Like,
I
because, like-
want to say it, but I mean, since we're here, yeah.
You know, like seeing the
'Cause
car,
people
like
crying broke.
car notes that
Right.
are well over $1,000,
Right.
multiple cars per household. So you have
It's
two
not
individuals
ignorance.
with multiple loans. You have installment loans. They're taking high interest personal loans. Like it's
Ridiculous.
a lot. Credit cards, you're like
Look,
squeezed out,
Right.
and then they come back and then they want to borrow more, and then a lot of people have they might get offended if you ask them to pay down their debt sometimes. So that's why I was asking.
Well, look, I think my big narrative here is that I think there's like the evil companies are taking advantage and people don't know. You know how many disclosures you have to look at and say, you know what your payment
But do you
was.
really
Right,
read all
yeah.
that?
I mean, but now like some of the stuff is like in your face. Like,
Oh, it is.
You
It is.
know,
But
like,
do
come
people
on.
really read all of those words? They
well,
don't.
then that's their problem. You know what I mean? Like, let's take some responsibility, like, at some point. Like, I get, before 2008, like, a balloon payment loan, and then no one told you, like,
That was fair. That's fair.
that's
Because
different.
there were predatory lending practices at that
right.
time.
But
Right.
stuff, there's so many regulations, and you know what the heck you're getting right now. I'm like, unless you're doing, like, some weird off-the-market type of thing, you know what the deal is. So don't cry broke. Sorry, I don't feel bad for people. Sorry.
But that's
Thank
why I
you.
was just saying, like, like with your mentioning, oh, I love debt. I was just like, no,
I love that,
no.
but I use it. They're tools. They're just
Mhm.
taking debt and then they're buying power tools and not even using them. They're just putting them in the shed.
They buy RVs and boats
Yeah.
and houses,
So don't complain when you're broke.
Cars.
I'm sorry.
fancy vacations, I'm sure.
Final thoughts.
All that.
Candace, we didn't get you in a lot. I need it.
That's listen. I've been learning.
I know,
Okay,
we're just
because
sitting
I'm
here
about to give
learning.
me a HELOC because
What you gonna do?
I'm get a Gucci belt like you said.
Oh,
So
Oh, I was going to ask, what are your plans?
Yeah,
What are your goals?
no,
Well,
I would love to. I'm very fearful of the unknown and all of that. But like flipping or buying another investment property or something like that is definitely like the next thing up for me. It's just been, do I use my own money or
No.
Debt.
No.
do I
Debt.
do what we were
We
just
don't call
talking
that debt.
about?
You borrow someone
Good debt.
else's money. but that's-
Exactly.
He said
My
debt.
thing is, and I've been for the last few months or so, just trying to think and come up with ways where the best way or the smartest way to use someone else's money. And it sounds like this might be it. So yeah.
Why
Very
not use
great
someone else's money?
talk.
I'm all about that. Use someone else's money to
Oh, yeah.
make yourself more money.
But then it just goes back to what Ryan said about it being more debt because
No,
ideally,
it is-
like
it's
it
good.
is- see,
debt,
but it's
though.
more good debt. Like
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, and here I go put my business out there. I probably am like debt heavy because of like good debt. Like
Yeah.
like we talked about.
You
Like
need
I have
more.
investment properties that have mortgages on them, but the rent is so much more than my monthly mortgage.
Yeah,
So
who cares?
I don't care. Yeah. But like if I go and decide I want to move and buy another like primary, I can forget it because I'm tapped out on like DTI and all of
because,
that.
yeah, but your rental income is income. So
That's
so
true.
if your property is made because they only use 80% of
Yeah.
it.
75.
So see, I'm always all off. I say
It
75 is
depends
80.
on like if it's your primary or your
But yeah,
investment or something.
but
like
No,
that.
like no rental income. They calculate
Oh,
rental
well,
income.
All
at
I'm trying to
75%.
say is that if you're cash flowing properly, it doesn't. That's why the debt doesn't matter. You could
Mhm.
have millions of dollars in debt
That's true.
as long as the cash flow from the asset is covering the debt.
As
Mhm.
long as you
It doesn't
claim
go
it
against
on
you.
your taxes.
Yeah, you got to put it on your taxes,
Yeah.
guys. Well, I'm gonna get a tax person here.
Oh
We're
yeah, I was
gonna
about to
talk
say we have to like
that. Yeah,
talk about that too. That's another good.
But that's a benefit of debt again. The interest, you write all
Exactly.
that interest.
oh my god.
All of it?
All the interest you write
No, I'm
off.
just messing with
Yeah.
you.
All that interest on that mill.
All of it.
It's almost 2 mil. I'm trying to get the 2 mil.
Treacherous territory.
I'm definitely getting 2 mil in debt by next year. We gonna get there.
And then like 10 years later, we're going to find a random like Forbes article of Ryan being like
Oh
the
my
next
God.
random
not-
billionaire because he
No.
I
like
became
got
a billionaire
because of
from
all
debt.
his debt that he paid off,
amassing
and
debt.
he's just a secret
That would be the thing.
secret billionaire
Yeah.
with the rancher with the outdoor
with the,
kitchen.
with the stance too.
I am not
I
staying in
amassed a
this house.
fortune by utilizing debt and continually.
That's why
increasing
real
my debt.
estate, you get 95%, 100% on my first loan. VA.
Yeah, see.
I ain't even have to pay no bread for that first house.
There you go.
All right,
See, why
guys.
not?
Ryan Got the Bread podcast. Hope it was fun. Leave the comments. Ask your questions. What topics should we cover?
Yeah, send us some topics, y'all.
Yeah, right. I need help. What's the next date? It's the 7th. What's
21st.
21st? Wow, that was fast. You're really good at that. I was gonna be stuck. I was just gonna make it up.
I got you.
Sunday, the 21st, probably around 4:00. We'll be live again. See ya. Woo!